You'll often hear that cyclists should not ride two abreast. It's a classic everywhere on social media, but what does the law say and when is it appropriate?
Yeah, here is what you need to know. Now, we reported on road.cc a few years ago that a police officer in Essex had pulled over a couple of cyclists and insisted that they were breaking the law by not riding in single file. The cyclists were told, "You are causing other road users to drive carelessly."
Even after consulting a copy of the highway code, the officer insisted that the cyclists were endangering themselves and other road users by riding side by side and took down their details.
Right, Becca, before we get deep into cases of what we hope is just innocent ignorance, it's best to start with a clear view of what the highway code says. Now, Rule 66 is the one that we're looking for here, and it states that you should never ride more than two abreast and ride in single file on narrow or busy roads and when riding around bends.
The base message here is that side-by-side cycling isn't prohibited. In fact, in many situations, it can be safer and make passing easier for motorists. They will come to all of that in a bit.
First, there is a question to ask. What defines a narrow or a busy road? How many degrees are there in a bend? Well, sorry, but none of these are defined. This is just a grey area where judgment is required from us when we're out on the bike.
So if, for example, you and I head out for a spin in the lanes and it narrows down to less than a two-lane road, it'd be a good idea to single out.
Yeah, I'd say so. It would be, if a vehicle was approaching behind, absolutely. But until one did, we can just keep riding side by side and having a chat.
Where the highway code is clear, though, is making a distinction between rules that use the words must not, which are legal requirements, and rules that use wording such as should not, or do and do not, which are advisory.
So, for instance, in Rule 60, it says that you must have a white front light and a red rear light when riding at night.
Now, not only would you want to seriously avoid riding in the dark without being able to see anything, namely all those inevitably massive potholes, but of course this rule ensures a basic standard of visibility of road users. Vehicles must use their lights at night, and the same goes for bikes.
But how does this wording apply to riding two abreast?
Well, the instructions not to ride more than two abreast and to ride in single file in certain circumstances are advisory.
So we can just ignore all the advice then?
Well, it's worth bearing in mind that according to the highway code, although failure to comply with rules of the code will not in itself cause a person to be prosecuted, the highway code may be used in evidence in any court proceedings under the Traffic Acts to establish liability.
Okay, so those are the rules, but if you're not a cyclist, you may still be wondering why we cyclists bother riding two abreast anyway.
Well, riding two abreast can be the sociable choice, of course, in that it allows you to chat easily with other riders rather than shouting forwards and backwards along a line. The social side, after all, is a massive part of cycling's attraction.
As we mentioned earlier, riding side by side can improve your safety too. It allows you to be seen more easily by other road users, both ahead and behind, and it isn't just safer for us. It also helps motorists in many circumstances by shortening the distance required for overtaking.
Cyclists riding side by side take up about half of the road length of cyclists riding in a single line, so passing a group of, say, 8 cyclists that are riding two abreast is going to be a hell of a lot safer and easier than passing the same number of riders that are in a long single line.
So close pass initiatives make it clear that motorists should give cyclists clearance of at least 1.5 metres when coming by. This virtually always means moving onto the opposite side of the road, at least partially anyway, so overtaking when traffic is coming in the other direction isn't an option. With that in mind, riding two abreast doesn't generally prevent overtaking when it would otherwise be safe and reasonable, although it might stop motorists squeezing past when there's not really enough space.
In his cycling skills manual, Cyclecraft, which forms the foundation of bikeability, that's the UK's national standard for cycle training, John Franklin says, if the road situation is such that it would be unsafe for traffic to pass cyclists riding in single file, 10 riding two abreast can help to dissuade following drivers from doing so.
Franklin also has some advice for us cyclists when we're heading out on larger group rides. He says that the longer the riding group, the more difficult it will be for other vehicles to overtake and the more likely they will be to cut in between riders. That's kind of obvious, really. But for these reasons, he recommends that groups should divide as necessary into subgroups of about 5 riders long, with a gap of at least 20 metres between subgroups. This allows traffic to overtake one subgroup at a time.
I guess we could also stagger the starts of group rides so that we don't all bunch up. That's another thing.
Yeah, it would mean getting to the cafe at a slightly different time to your other riding groups. They might have your friends in, but that will probably help the cafe staff get everyone their coffee and cake in good order. Yeah.
So when is it best for a group of riders to single out? That's the question. As mentioned above, the highway code says that cyclists should ride in single file on narrow or busy roads and when riding round bends, but it does not define those terms.
That isn't amazingly helpful, is it? But I'd suggest that singling out through bends, at least, will generally happen quite naturally, especially when a group begins to descend.
Yeah, I would say that judging these situations does get better with experience, doesn't it? Yeah. You'll probably know when it's appropriate to move to single file if traffic is getting held up behind you and it's safe to let them overtake, most importantly.
Now, hopefully that has cleared up some of the confusion around riding two abreast. Put simply though, it is legal for riders to be riding in twos, and for much of the time it is easier and safer for cars to pass when a group is in 2 lines.
Yeah, it really is. There are times when we as riders should be singling out, and as ever, a little bit of give and take from both sides is going to make everyone's day that little bit nicer. Well, thank you as ever, everyone who's watched this video. We hope that you found it useful.
Yeah, and if you like this kind of video, give it a like. If you've got any comments, then there's a comment section just down there. Subscribe to the channel as it really does help us out, and we will see you in the next one.